Hi, welcome to our newest video series, Ask a Therapist, where we sit down with our most trusted therapists and see how they would respond to some parenting questions. Today we have Kate Sample and Janine Halloran, and our questions for Janine first. Hi, Janine.
Hello.
So we had someone suggest this question. My son is struggling to make friends at school. He's in fifth grade and going through that awkward transition phase from elementary to middle school. How can I, as his mom, best help him grow his social circle without overstepping and embarrassing him?
Oh gosh. And this is a big deal because they're getting to that age when they're going from elementary school to middle school where you can't, reach out to another parent and start to set up a play date because first of all, they don't call them play dates, they call it hangouts. And they really need to be taking ownership of that as much as possible. But if he's struggling with that, then I would say look around and see if there are other places you can go to find kids who have a similar interest. So say he's interested in Legos. So maybe there's a Lego club at the local library. Maybe he's interested in chess. Maybe he could join a chess club at a local community center. And the good thing about going into middle school is they are phenomenal with having after school activities. Typically, that's where a lot of kids start to meet new kids when they're going into middle school is those after school activities, those after school clubs, those after school fun times where they can get together and find kids who have something similar that they're interested in, and then that's where friendship really starts to build. They have that common interest. Maybe it's Dungeons and Dragons or soccer, and then that's when they start to make those friends. So that's what I would say. Try and help him find those places where he can start to build those friendships.
Yeah, I agree completely with Janine. That transition from elementary school to middle school is huge, and autonomy becomes even more important to your child. So anytime that you can facilitate but not control your child's social interactions is really important. In many cases, middle school is the time when quite a few elementary schools that are feeder schools go to one. And so middle school kids, especially in those early years of middle school, depending on your district, are often introduced to a lot of new kids that they haven't been with since kindergarten. And so that's always a good opportunity too, to learn new names, learn new faces, learn new people that you can spend time with in your classes. And your classes generally start to shift and change too, as opposed to staying with one kind of home group throughout the day. So, and yeah, I think the same as Janine on that, when there's extracurriculars and there's a new kind of group of kids to choose from, the best that you can do for your child is to facilitate and encourage them to try those new things, get into the extracurriculars, and meet some of those new kids.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question, and this one is going to Kate, I believe. My ex is getting remarried, and my children don't exactly get along with his new spouse's children. I'm trying to be supportive and urging them to be patient and go along to get along, but how else can I support them in this marriage, yet not invalidate their feelings?
Sure. Yeah. Blended families are complex. There's generally, whenever a parent remarries or repartners, there's generally a lot of feelings of guilt, or not guilt, excuse me, grief, maybe some sadness, maybe some relief, depending on the situation. But then trying to blend two sets of kids that have been through similar experiences can be a challenge for sure. I think anytime that you can validate for your child, like, yes, I get that this is difficult for you. I get that maybe they're not your first choice of people to spend time with, is important, that validation piece. But then also, I think normalizing a little bit that it's okay that you don't necessarily love these kids right away. They are essentially strangers, right? And you're going to be living together and you're going to be sharing a life together. So it is normal to be a little resistant to that. It is normal to need some time to adjust and learn more about them, just as you would anyone else. The hope is that the ex and his or her new partner is not forcing it or trying to make the kids get along, or trying to do anything like that. So hopefully, if you have an open communication with your ex, you're able to have that conversation with him or her as well, to facilitate that.
Yes, I Kate, you're completely right on. I think the thing is you want to make sure that they are able to feel like their feelings are being heard, that
Right.
we're not trying to push those away or say that, no, like this is, this is how it is and you don't really have a choice. So this is, to be able to validate their feelings. And also, I think one of the other things that you can do is if they're talking about something and, they're wanting to air maybe their grievances, you might want to ask, like, is this something that you just want me to listen to, or do you want me to help you problem solve this? And, trying to figure out, like, is this just an opportunity for you to finally air all the things that you don't get a chance to air because you feel frustrated about this or that? Versus is this something that I need to talk with my ex about so that we can figure out a solution to this issue that's going on?
That's a really good point. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, really good points from both of you. Thank you. All right, our final question. This one's near and dear. I recently noticed my teenage daughter was sending explicit photos to a boy she likes. How do I call her out for what I think is dangerous behavior without making her feel self-conscious about her sexuality? And that one's to Janine.
Of course. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because we want our kids to be able to explore things and go into having relationships, but we also want them to be safe and healthy. So one of the things I would say is talking about the social media piece of it, the part of it that she can't control. So if you send a picture and it goes to somebody else, you actually don't have any control over that anymore. So you don't know who he's with, who he's showing it to, who he is sharing it with. Is he is he screenshotting it and sending it to other people? Those sorts of things. So talking about the dangers of that piece of it versus you are talking to him and you want to get closer to him, you want to have a connection. What are the other things that might make more sense to do as a way to build your connection with him, build into a friendship, into a relationship? What are the expectations of that you want? And you can talk about what your expectations are, what your ethics, what your morals are as a family. This is what we do. This is what we expect. And then also talking about like what is good relationship skills? Like what does it look like to be in a good relationship? So I would talk with her about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Janine. I think whenever you take a picture on your phone, you should probably just assume that other people are going to see it, whether you mean for them to or not. Would kind of be the message that I would take with her, just to say, hey, you might trust this person completely, but what will happen down the road if you're no longer together, or if, it's just, what's tricky about it is that adolescents don't have that prefrontal cortex completely developed yet. So to say, well, 10 years from now, you're not going to want that out there, it doesn't compute, right? They're not there. They're in the moment and they want to respond to the moment. So keeping it very local, so to speak, to say if you're sending it to one person, you're probably sending it to at least 5, whether you trust them or not, is a little more tangible as part of that conversation. And I agree completely, Janine. Really what this is at the core of this is health of relationships and health of the self, right? And how you want to portray yourself and how you want to be seen in a relationship. So talking about boundaries, talking about what constitutes a healthy versus an unhealthy relationship. Did she receive pressure to send that picture? And if so, let's talk about that. Or did she freely send it? There's a lot of caveats here that I think are worth exploring for sure. But I think as with any conversation with an adolescent or human for that matter, anytime that you can validate and normalize the intent is going to get you much further than any kind of consequential talk or, punishment-driven talk or shame-based talk.
Awesome. Since we have a few minutes left, do you guys mind if I ask you another question?
Sure.
So in my parent sphere, if you will, one of the things I hear the most, one of the struggles I hear most often, what is the appropriate age to let your kids have a phone and get on social media? I know there's no like magic answer, right? But what are some signs maybe parents can look for to show that their kid is responsible, ready to embark on this? And I forget where we're at. I think, Kate, it's your turn.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, also a classic question. You're absolutely right. In parents' circles, I can tell you that my 6-year-old asked me the other day what an Apple Watch is, and I about cried because I'm still trying to shelter her from all of that. There is no magic age, as you said, but I think some of the things you're looking for are behaviors and skills off the phone, so to speak, that might translate to the phone. So, for example, if your child has poor impulse control, doesn't think things through, tends to act before thinking, tends to be pretty reactive emotionally, doesn't tend to be responsible, and this varies for every child. It's developmental, and it's linear in a sense, but there's no timetable to it. I always think of off the phone skills that will translate to on the phone skills, or whatever device it is, are important to have. So for me, some of those green flags, if you will, would be reliability and responsibility, judgment that is good and improving over time, and the ability to communicate with them about it. And I always think that more than anything else, the way that you couch that conversation is that you don't get to have a phone. It's not a right, it's a privilege, right, to have it. And so it's one of those things that you need to honor and be trustworthy about, so that we can continue, and that it's an ongoing conversation. It's not going to be a yes, all systems go and we'll never talk about it again. And keeping those lines of communication open are huge, just like they are off the phone.
I totally agree. I think the piece of it that I absolutely want to focus on, Kate, is it's an ongoing conversation. Just because you give a child a phone doesn't mean then that means that they're on Instagram and Snapchat and all of these different things without any parental supervision or direction. So to have conversations before the phone even gets into their hands about what are our expectations, what are our recommendations, how much are we going to be able to be watching your phone? Like, we're going to be checking what you're saying on, what you're saying to people, and we're going to be expecting that we're seeing positive, nice, calm, respectful language when you're talking with other people. This is what we expect if you choose to get onto something like Instagram. This is what we expect if you choose to do something like Snapchat. So to know that just because you give them a phone doesn't mean that they then now have, they shouldn't necessarily have constant access to all social media. You can take that step by step, and there is some oversight that you can use. And the goal is for them to be able to use the phone in a responsible way, because we want them to be able to show, I can use this in a way that is helpful and supportive of my life, where I can talk to my friends and do the things that I'd like to do. And I always, for me, my kids did not get phones until middle school, I'll be honest, but my kids are a little bit older, so it wasn't as expected. I think talking about Apple Watches and when they were in kindergarten wasn't a thing. I don't even know if they existed then. You know what I mean? Right. So my kids are they're in a different sort of place versus younger kids than mine. So
yeah.
All right. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today. If you have a question that you would like us to pose to a therapist, please send us a DM and we'll keep it anonymous. And remember, while these wonderful people are therapists, their insights and their opinions are for educational purposes only. They're not your therapist. But if you would like to find a therapist, search our directory at therapist.com. Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Kate. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.